Hi, everyone. So glad you're there. It's the Brian Kilmeade Show, and it was just a crazy, intense, but great week. We have a lot to discuss today. We got two of the great ones to do it with us. Karl Rove is standing by. Not only I want to get his perspective on a Middle East war that some people find unpopular, but he knows what that's like after being a part of the Bush administration during the Iraq War. And Brit Hume is standing by, too. And, of course, we'll be able to take your calls. And we got some excerpts from a interview we just did with President Trump exclusively. I did it late last night, and we're bringing it back today. I'll have some excerpts here and the whole thing in a different hour during this Friday broadcast. But let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
We're not putting any preconditions on funding TSA. The Republicans are. And why?
Mr. President,
because
the Democrat leader would yield for a question.
No, in a minute.
Is that the most ridiculous, insincere thing you ever heard? That is Chuck Schumer denying funding for the TSA and Coast Guard because he says the ICE has to be reined in. There's already been some agreements there. He does not want to pay ICE, and instead we have people living paycheck to paycheck without a paycheck.
Number 2.
This guy should not have been even out on the streets, and thank God for the ROTC member who was able to stop him. These are the kinds of people that the leading Democrats in their party are funding. They are electing them.
That is Ben Domenech weighing in. Terror attacks coming fast and furious from Islamic extremists. We talk about the heroic actions taken to stop it and the need to be ready for the next one.
Number 1.
They're putting up a wonderful front. They're saying things, but they are devastated when you take a look at what we know. And remember this, we could do things that would be so bad they could literally never rebuild as a nation again. And we're trying to be nice about it. We're not doing it.
That is the president last night with me. Don't listen to the Undermine America crowd. Iran war is on plan, on target, and on schedule as we disassemble the terror regime. The only issue, energy and reopening the Strait of Hormuz. And with us right now is Brit Hume, Fox News senior political analyst. Brit, there's a difference between Iran and Iraq. I get it. But you know the big difference for me is that I've never seen the Democrats and the media combine while we're beginning a very consequential moment in our history. I could see if the war effort was going south, but it seems like there's a collaboration to I guess get people to think this is going terribly with Iran. Do you get that perspective?
Yeah, I do, Brian, and I think that it's leftover from previous conflicts which have gone sour, and previous conflicts in which certain journalists have made their bones by spotting the flaws in U.S. military planning and execution going as far back as Vietnam. So it has become a kind of model for coverage, is that the United States undertakes a military mission. If it takes a little while, I'm talking about more than a few days or a day or two, then you look for flaws, you write the flaws, you emphasize them. You got a price spike in oil and therefore on gasoline. You do all you can about that. You treat it as if it's insoluble, and here we are.
So with this regime in particular, Britt, how many years were you covering, even when you were on the network prior to Fox News, on ABC? And since 79, Iran has been one of the top 3 issues in international affairs, whether we're in Iraq or anywhere else. Iran's always there since 79.
Yeah, it has been an absolutely implacable enemy of the United States and of U.S. allies. It has been undissuadable from its efforts to make itself a dominant force in the world, to try to force the world to submit to Sharia law and the rest of it, and the result is what we're seeing now. And this president has decided to do something about it. Such missions are risky and difficult, but in military terms, Brian, the casualties have been insignificant. Now, obviously, they're very tragic for the families involved, and I don't mean to minimize that in any way. But this is amazing what is being pulled off here. We're doing things that Iran at this point is basically defenseless. So all it can do is pull a stunt like trying to close the Strait of Hormuz. And let's remember this about that. And you see this almost never in any of the coverage, which is simply this. No country on earth depends on shipments of fuel and oil through the Strait of Hormuz more than Iran does. It is the lifeblood of its economy, is that oil exports. It cannot afford to have the Strait of Hormuz closed, and it is impossible for me, at least, to imagine a circumstance in which the Strait of Hormuz is somehow open miraculously to Iran's own ships and not to anybody else's. That would never be able to be sustained in my judgment. So I think that's where we kind of are, and it tells you why Iran didn't do this more often. If it was so effective and so devastatingly powerful, it's because they can't afford to.
And I think forever there's going to be people doing what Saudi Arabia is doing now. They're starting to get their oil out through pipelines. I think 7 million barrels a day, not what they're used to. And we have done a great job since the 70s in being our own export, more of the number one exporter of oil and gas, especially in the advent of fracking. But how about this, Brit Hume? How about the fact that there are gas lines in China? And is that related at all to the sudden lack of flights to intimidate Taiwan, which have taken place since Nancy Pelosi decided to visit there 3 years ago? What's your reaction to that?
Well, you have to think, Brian, that of all the leaders in the world looking with dismay and worry at what's happening in Iran, Xi Jinping would have to be high on the list, simply because his country depends heavily on exports of oil from Iran, and the fact that there are gas lines in China, to the extent there are, is a sign that this is affecting them over there. So, Russia would have to. I mean, Russia is being considered a big winner because petroleum prices are up, but I don't think you can say the same in any sense about China.
Yeah, in the short term,
problem here.
In the short term, Russia is benefiting, no doubt about it. I mean, Scott Besson made a news last night. They got 100 million barrels of 100 million barrels of Russian oil is just sitting at sea, and he's going to let people buy it now just to hopefully bring the price down. The market's up, by the way. But I asked President Trump, how does he feel about the fact that Vladimir Putin is helping with targeting with Iran? Listen to what he said, Cut 8.
You think Putin is helping them?
I think he might be helping them a little bit, yeah, I guess. And he probably thinks we're helping Ukraine, right?
And you are, right?
Yeah, we're helping them also, and so he says that, and China would say the same thing. It's like, hey, they do it and we do it. In all fairness, they do it and we do it.
Trump just lays it out. No bitterness. That's the way the game is played, I guess. Is that acceptable?
Make no mistake about it, Brian. The president has tilted toward Russia in the war with Ukraine. American people don't tilt that way. Public opinion, broadly speaking, is not in that direction. Even to a great extent within his own party, it's not. It is one thing about his administration that I have found inexplicable, and that is that he has been so soft on Russia, putting all the pressure, or nearly all the pressure, to settle the war on Ukraine, when Ukraine is the country that is under attack. And I keep waiting for the day when the president finally realizes that Vladimir Putin is no friend of mine and won't be a friend of his in any meaningful way. But he has not come to that realization.
And by the way, I don't want to get sidetracked too much, but in Ukraine is now making progress on the ground. Ever since Starlink was shut off to the Russians, who are basically pirating it, and now they don't have the satellite knowledge, they don't have the communication, and the Ukrainians are making some gains. Yesterday, they blew up a missile parts plant with one of the long-range British missiles.
It's been remarkable the extent to which Ukraine, which is, many people thought would fall in the first 5 days of this conflict, has been able to hold Russia off for all this time, and now, as you point out, Brian, has begun to make some gains, which had been a purely defensive affair for some time on their end, and now they're beginning to gain ground. They've been amazingly resourceful. They've been inventive. We're now turning to them to use technology they developed for inexpensive drone interceptors. So that is really quite one of the great, and the nature of warfare really has changed because of what the Ukrainians have been able to develop. Remarkable story.
So Britt, a lot of times I go to Sky News and BBC overnight, some of these international channels, because I'm up at 3 and in the office at 4, just to see how they're reporting it. And I'm seeing Kuwaiti officials, UAE officials all talking. Nobody's blaming us. No one's saying this has got to stop. the outrage and anger about these high-ranking ministers is really directed at Iran. It has not broke the Gulf Alliance, where if this ends the right way, where they can't make ballistic missiles and we find a way to get that uranium, I believe there's going to be there's going to be Abraham Accords 2.0 quickly.
Yeah, and it could be a large alliance developed thereby. I think when Iran was hit, it made a decision that it really couldn't effectively fight back. It's basically defenseless. So what it can do then is attack, and the only places they can attack are places they can reach, and the only places they can reach with their Gulf Arab neighbors, which they are trying to do, and Israel, of course, which is what they're trying to do in the hope that those Gulf Arab neighbors will turn to the United States and say, hey, we're getting hit now, stop this. Well, that didn't happen. It went the other way so far, and looks like it's going to continue to go that way. So that was another one of their miscalculations. They're in real trouble there.
Something else that's really interesting is that, remember how during Bush's years in office, he had Silicon Valley who began to be not cooperative with the Pentagon. They don't want to be part of a war machine or quotes to that nature. And that has really changed with Palantir, Palmer Luckey's company, and others. And now Google is now all in. General Keane writes me and says, Eric Schmidt's company, Perennial Autonomy, began developing these things called MIR-OPS, which are essentially a way of knocking down drones without using our Patriot battery or the THAAD missile system. And now they're delivering them in great numbers for free to our Arab states. I mean, that's the type of all hands on deck we need, the brilliance of our innovators helping our military.
It is very hard these days to keep track of the technological advances. They're changing everything, including warfare.
Yeah. And lastly, how long do you, judging by how well you know President Trump, you know the operation, the complexities here, how long do you think this lasts?
I think it's hard to say, but I think it's likely to be more a matter of weeks, maybe a couple of months at the outside. It's certainly how the president would like to wrap it up. I think it's fair to say, based on the briefing we heard today, Brian, and I'm sure you were I know you were watching.
You carried it. Yeah.
We were carrying it on your show this morning on Fox and Friends. That we are proceeding methodically, not slowly. In fact, quickly, but methodically through a target list, which is designed to undercut Iran's ability to do anything militarily. And I think that in time they'll get around, if they haven't already to a great extent, to dealing with the problem in the Strait of Hormuz, which is a real problem in the short term particularly, and that this war can be wrapped up. But, you do face the limitations of what you can do from the air, and if you're seeking regime change, that's very hard to do from the air. But I think we'll be looking at a changed regime for sure.
Yeah, when we get back, I'll play you what President Trump said about, is it time for the Iranians to stand up? Brit Hume, always great. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, Brian. Thank you.
You got it. 1-866-408-7669. Yeah, when we come back, I just watched Mark Halpern, who's a really tapped-in, smart guy, and they're saying, well, even MAGA's upset that the president didn't pre-think the shutting down of the Strait of Hormuz. There's a lot of things to criticize the president if you want. Go ahead. But one of the first things I've always heard since Jimmy Carter was president was Iran's linchpin was the Strait of Hormuz. The problem is that blowing up the Navy, which you need to do, stopping the mining, which really has happened, that's what two things. But the big thing that they have is over-the-top drones and missiles. Until you can take out all the launchers and the drones, it's too much of a risk to escort using our destroyers. That doesn't matter in any place. You could plan for that for years. That's still going to be the case. Right now, 75% of the launchers are gone, and a lot of the missile technology is blown up. The possibility of creating more, and also they're in the process of eliminating their drone stock. But it's always going to take time. You listen to the Brian Kilmeade Show.
Finally, we hear from the Supreme Leader in a long statement. We don't see him. He doesn't read the speech. They say he wrote the speech. First off, do you believe he's alive?
I think he probably is. I think he's damaged, but I think he's probably alive in some form.
When you say he's damaged, The president knows that he's been wounded. That's a fact. We've had people made statements to Iran, to press, I think Tehran Times, about that. And we mean disfigured. He was part of the explosion when we blew up and killed his dad, his wife, I think a sibling, and he's the one standing. And he's so banged up, they still named him leader. And he has all these statements about we're going to expand the war, keep the Strait closed, demanding that we leave all our bases. And he also said this. He also said that the president of the United States basically has to stop fighting for him to even start talking. Really? You really think that's going to happen? Many people are looking at this and writing these down as if we're going to actually rise to these demands because the war is going so bad. I have news for you. I know some people might be cheering against this country. We're winning. He's doing everything he can, but you can't do it automatically with a snap of the fingers, even with our fantastic weapons. There's always going to be days. Like, for example, our tanker that was trying to refuel in Iraq. We lost 7 guys. We lost, I don't actually know if it's 7. 7 wounded, 3 had lost their lives. And we're going to get their names. But it wasn't from friendly fire and it wasn't from enemy fire. It was just some type of malfunction. The investigation is going to take place. You heard Brit Hume. If we lose one, we live. That's too many. But in the perspective of a war where you have another war with, for example, the other superpower, Russia, losing 32,000 a month for 4.5 years, I'm pretty sure this is more impressive than that in terms of these casualty numbers. We care about human life on both sides more. But what I think is important is that the supreme leader has been named, but he's not been seen. Where's the courage of these extremists? Walk the streets. Tell us what you're going to do. Get your troops rolling. Let you know that your new supreme leader is going to be better than the old supreme leader. Problem is, he's not a really religious guy, so he's not going to be a religious leader. That's why he's not an Ayatollah, reportedly. Number 2, he doesn't no charismatic Q rating. Not many people have even heard his voice. What he is picked by the IRGC, so it's as if the military is running the country. They got nowhere to go if they were to defect. But what's happening on the ground when we come back, I do want to talk about that because that's going to be the key. If we could get a destabilized government and find a way to get a different group in charge, even though there's some risk with that, some of those people that stood up and spoke out, many people lost their lives. We can get them some power, some arms, and weaken their regime enough to take their country back. That would be great. The other thing, go get the uranium. 400 kilograms, you say? We know roughly where it is, about a mile from Fordo. Go get it. The Texas election, you said you're going to make a choice on what Republican should really get the nomination. Right. Is it going to be Cornyn or is it going to be Paxton? What do you think?
Well, let me tell you the good news. The good news is their candidate is whacked out with his 6 different forms of gender and all the things that I saw. The insult to Jesus. I mean, such an insult. This guy is whacked out. And, it's very interesting. They had no fear of her because she's a low IQ individual. But they really waited. The Republicans waited. They really wanted to run against him because they had these things, and nobody knew they had them. And all this bad stuff came out about him. He is so woke. He's beyond woke. He's actually, I think he's grossly incompetent.
And that is, he's talking about Tallarico, who's the state rep who wants to be the next senator from Texas. And they talked about his promise. Joe Rogan liked him. That's what got him a lot of attention. But Tallarico's past statements shows that he's running in a different era. And when he's talking about her, he's talking about Crockett. And Crockett came in and said, I'm going to win. And one of the reasons that Crockett indicated that she didn't win is because Texas doesn't let illegals vote. So she's a genius, no question. Karl Rove, Karl, Wall Street Journal columnist, Fox News contributor, former senior advisor to President George W. Bush. Karl, is the president right about Tallarico?
Well, he's right that Tallarico has said weird things. On the other hand, Tallarico knows that Texas is not a way left of center state like Crockett. Crockett said literally that there is a progressive majority in Texas. It just doesn't vote. He's smart enough to know that he has to win Republican and independent votes. He knocked off an incumbent Republican state representative in his first race in Williamson County, the suburban county north of Austin. Now, when they redistricted, he moved into a far more Democratic district. But let's not kid ourselves. He is a smart guy, and if Ken Paxton is the nominee, the Democrats will pour $100 or $200 million into the race because Paxton has a record of scandals that is going to turn off a lot of voters.
So the president, but he's very MAGA and he keeps winning. I couldn't believe he beat George P. Bush and held on to that job. But you know what's going on in Texas. I asked him, so what are you going to do? Are you going to endorse? Because, the word is, Karl, he was going to say, I'm going to pick one and ask the other to drop out. So cut 41.
So you're going to stay out of the primary then? The Paxton, Cornyn?
No, I'm not going to say it. No, I want to do something.
And he didn't want to talk any more about it.
Yeah. Well, look, back to your point, George P. Bush did run 4 years ago against Paxton. But since then, we've learned that Paxton has had at least 2 and possibly 3 girlfriends, and that one of his girlfriends, while married, that one of his girlfriends got a job that allowed her to move from San Antonio to Austin. And the job he got was from a corrupt real estate guy who went to jail, and for whom Paxton then did favors. During COVID in 2020, he issued an opinion on it, which normally takes 180 days and has to be independently requested. But he decided he was going to issue it, and he issued it in 3 days, saying you could not conduct open-air auctions on courthouse steps of foreclosed properties because of COVID. And why? Because his corrupt business guy, Nate Paul, was going to have a bunch of foreclosed properties auctioned off on the courthouse steps to satisfy his creditors the following week. So there's a lot that we did not know. We literally know how many times he went to have sex with his girlfriend. He had a fake Uber account paid for by the corrupt business guy under the name of David P. because as a state attorney general, his license plates, he has as what are called SO license plates, state official license plates that you can easily identify. And he didn't want to see that, get caught having his car parked outside her apartment. So he took had a fake Uber account so he could Uber to go see her. Leaves at 8:30 at night, comes back at 2 o'clock in the morning. What do we think went on?
Yeah, this is all the stuff that's got to come out and give Tallarico a shot, you believe, correct?
Oh, yeah, no, and look, he has rewarded law firms by giving them lavish contracts to buddies who turn around and contribute to him, paying $3,000 an hour for the attorneys and like $1,100 or $1,200 an hour for the paralegals. And so these guys then turn around and many of them Democratic personal injury trial lawyers and reward him with campaign contributions. There's so much that we didn't know 4 years ago that the Democrats do now know. I mean, look, this is a guy. Remember when President Trump said that the member of the Federal Reserve Board had lied on the mortgage application?
Yes.
Well, this guy, the Attorney General, has lied on multiple mortgage applications. He literally has applied for and gotten mortgages on places that he claims are his principal residence that he doesn't live in and that he rents out, including a place in Oklahoma. And somehow or another, on a $148,000 salary, he has accumulated something like $6 million in real estate as Attorney General. I mean, how did that happen? Well, he supposedly got a big grant of money from somebody who met him in a Dairy Queen and said, "You're a great guy, and I'm going to give you, several $1 million." I mean, this is just beyond belief.
It is. And so, Texas, I know where you stand, and I always love Senator Cornyn. I think he's a class act, the type of guy you want to serve. Because he doesn't go out there, you can't. Listen, George W. Bush had people disagree with him that he liked. I remember Senator Lugar and others who the president got along with, but President Bush, at times, they would have to do their own thing. That's what people get angry at. I mean, come on. He's not Rand Paul. He just had a few things. Yeah. And when it came to that gun reform, I had no problem with that. That wasn't gun reform.
No, remember what there are two things that he did on guns. One was after the Sutherland Springs massacre, in which 20 plus people died because a guy who was kicked out of the Air Force got an AR-22 and shot him, and was stopped only because one of the parishioners in the church had a gun and killed him. It turned out that guy should not have been able. The Air Force, guy ejected from the Air Force should not have been able to purchase a gun, but the Air Force failed to meet the statutory requirement of sharing that data with the National Crime Information database, so that when he went to buy a gun, he could be stopped from buying a gun. And what Cornyn did was say every state and every federal agency has to supply this data in a timely fashion, or there are going to be penalties. They're required to supply it in an accurate and total fashion, and it quickly within a certain period of time. But there were no penalties, so everybody said, "Well, who cares?" And the second one was there was a Uvalde where the troubled teenager killed a bunch of school children, and come to find out he shouldn't have been able to buy a gun because he did something as a teenager that would have kept him from purchasing a weapon. But at age 18, it was expunged from his record. So Cornyn and others, in a bipartisan effort, said if you're a teenager and you do bad things, it doesn't go away for the purpose of purchasing a gun when you turn 18.
I know the president likes him, so I hope I think he's going to make that decision. He's all about winning, too. Karl, I got to ask you, too, about this Iran war. I think, and I have no idea where you stand, I think this is his most gutsy decision yet. I think his Pentagon's functioning at an extremely high level with very competent people. And I cannot believe how the press and Democrats, you guys had that prior to the surge, right? Everybody thought, okay, the Iraq war was lost. I got it. But not in the beginning. And Vietnam was supported in the beginning. Understood. And then when you stop performing, then people come out of the woodwork. But I think they're actually rooting against the country for this. And I think Kimberly Strassel put it great in today's Wall Street Journal. It's the Undermine America choir. It's the Undermine America group. How do you feel about it?
First of all, I think I agree with you entirely. Gutsy call. And what our military and the Israeli military have done is amazing, just nothing short of amazing. And the question is, how do we bring this to resolution? And the problem that the president faces is that we're in an asymmetrical contest. All the Iranians need to do is survive, and they have, quote, won from their perspective. We shouldn't be concerned with that. What we should be concerned with is what it is that we want to achieve and how do we achieve it. He's got tough decisions ahead. You're right. The Democrats, right from the beginning, were against him. I think the administration, was put in a place where it didn't go out and patiently explain. We had time in 2001 and 2002 to go out and patiently explain to the country what it is that we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it. He didn't have that luxury. But you're right. It is a gutsy call and a recognition that for 47 years, the country of Iran has been at war with the United States. And we did things, but we didn't do enough. And he is doing a lot. And
I know you call balls and strikes. And the one thing he said to me is, I'm not leaving this for the next guy. Look, he was worried about the midterms. If he only cared about elections and himself, he wouldn't have done this. He said, I'm not leaving it for the next guy or the next woman. And that means a Democrat or Republican. Right. Now, also, your feeling about this. I also asked him about rumors that a lot of his cabinet was not for this, that the vice president in particular was not for this. I don't think that's a dysfunctional executive branch. How do you feel about that story? It's leading the Politico today, and I have heard that before, too.
Look, a president needs to have people around him who have opinions and are not afraid to express those opinions, whether others agree or not. This idea that, it'd be one thing if they were at war with each other and leaking against each other and blah, blah, but they aren't. And so I think this is, what do you want? Do you want a president who's surrounded by a bunch of yes men and yes women, all of whom agree with everything that he says and does or proposes to do? No, you want to have a robust debate. Now, we don't really know who's saying what inside, but the idea that this is somehow a sign of weakness in this president is ridiculous. You do want to have people who have strong opinions, who come at it from different angles, because the president needs that kind of input in order to come to a decision.
Yeah, that's what I think. And look, the vice president's also, and I don't know, what were you doing when Bush 41 was vice president? Where were you, Karl?
Well, I was in Texas, and
okay, you weren't working for him yet. So Bush 41.
Well, no, I'd worked for him before, and I worked for him later. But I went to work for the senior Bush when I was 22 years old. So,
okay.
But no, I did not go to Washington. He did appoint me to the Board for International Broadcasting that oversaw Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty. But which is a tool that this president should be able to have with Radio Farsi to communicate directly with the Iranian people.
Evidently is.
Kerry Lake, Kerry Lake undercut it, virtually dismantled it. Big mistake. But my understanding is they're trying to cobble things together so that they can be communicating with the people of Iran because they need to know what's happening.
But my big point is when you have a vice president that's going to be running for president and Reagan's on his second term, kind of like Trump, how do you run for office? And he's going to run on the fact that he's not for these foreign wars. I mean, he's gonna. I mean, how do you separate him and saying, hey, I was vice president, but this is what I would have done? I mean, he's going to be a very interesting area where I think Rubio is on board with the president's foreign policy. I'm pretty clear that he was not, remember, it leaked out, sadly, on the Signal chat that he was not for bombing the Houthis. And then was Venezuela, he was invisible, which showed me a lot. And then we find out on Politico, not denied, that he was against this. So it's just, and many people want that. Listening to us right now, love that J.D. Vance is not for all those things. So what are your thoughts about how you do that?
Well, look, if a president, if you're Ronald Reagan, you want your legacy to be continued. You want the general thrust of your policies to be continued. But Reagan was an adult, and he understood that George H.W. Bush was a different person and couldn't run by saying, I'm going to do exactly what Reagan would do. So he gave him he was not critical when the senior Bush said, I'm going to be a kinder, gentler nation and blah, blah.
Yep.
Didn't. And similarly, President Trump, my sense is, would like to see his legacy continued and knows that whoever succeeds him is not going to do 100% of what he would have done. That's not the nature of human beings. So, the question is going to be, does President Trump say, okay, Marco Rubio might do things a little bit differently, or Tom Cotton, or J.D. Vance, or Glenn Youngkin, or Brian Kemp, but I'm not going to go out there and criticize them as they try and lay out a proper message. Think about this. Let's go back to history a little bit. Go back to since the end of World War II, 8 years of Harry S. Truman, Democrat, followed by 8 years of Dwight D. Eisenhower, Republican, followed by 8 years of Kennedy Johnson, Democrat, followed by 8 years of Nixon Ford, Republican, followed by 4 years of Jimmy Carter, followed by 12 years of Reagan and Bush, followed by 8 years of Clinton, Democrat, followed by 8 years of W, Republican, followed by 8 years of Obama, Democrat, followed by 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden, 4 years of Trump. What do you think is going to happen next time? Is it going to be an automatic thing that the Republicans are going to win? No, because change is an essential element of every presidential campaign, and the Democrats will have an advantage in the next election by saying, we're going to be different. So you better have a Republican candidate who can say, I'm going to keep doing the good things, and I got a couple of new ideas a little bit different than what my predecessor did. Understood.
And I just watched an interview with Hubert Humphrey, of all people, and he had to separate himself from LBJ, and he couldn't. Al Gore tried to separate himself from Bill Clinton and couldn't. And he went out of his way to do it.
He never really tried.
Well,
he never
like
really
Clinton.
tried, but you're right. Hubert Humphrey did. I happened to be in school as a young student in Salt Lake in 1968 when Hubert Humphrey gave the famous speech where he broke with Lyndon Johnson over the war. And, and that brought him to it. We forget, Nixon narrowly won the 1968 election, and in large measure it was because at the end, Humphrey differentiated himself from LBJ.
And also I hear Hubert Humphrey is an extremely likable guy. And that also hit a good way about him. Karl Rove, unbelievable recall, by the way. You just went through 60 or 70 years of American history. Very impressive.
Well, I bring my best when it's Kilmeade.
I know.
Kilmeade, is the top of the, I'm honored to be on your program, and I bring my A game.
You do, and my audience salutes you for it, as do I. Karl Rove, thanks so much. Back in a moment. Is it true that you're telling your whole cabinet to wear the same shoes, these Florsheim shoes?
No, but it's a nice shoe. But what I do is, as somebody that for many, many years has walked around in shoes that were no good and, would not be that comfortable, So I have fun with it. When they tell me they have a problem, I say, let me get you a pair of shoes, and it seems to work out pretty well. Now they look all spiffy and nice. I never like cabinet members walking in sneakers.
Right.
You know, sneakers are wonderful, but I don't want my cabinet members wearing sneakers. So I'll get them a pair of shoes. It's a gift from Donald Trump.
And it's about $140. It's all true. And the other story that I was going to follow up with, but I didn't want, I know I was already overtime with him, is Marco Rubio evidently is fun. It's not a big deal, but he's evidently wearing huge shoes. And on camera and on, online, people are mocking him for wearing loose shoes. To be totally candid, Marco Rubio might be one of the most respected men in America. And I think they just did a study, one of those polls. And I think right now, if there was to be a presidential race, Democrats and Republicans, everybody in, he wins. So, it's very simple. When you're Secretary of State, he's National Security Advisor too, first time since Kissinger, you kind of run your own thing. I remember Condoleezza Rice said, I said, what's the big difference? He says, you're kind of doing your own thing. You got your own plane. You have your own building. You're kind of setting foreign policy. You create your own relationships. With National Security Advisor, you're very much just helping the president. So he's got both. And it's going well. And they are making huge progress in Central and South America. People are focusing on Cuba. You know what happened yesterday in Chile? Another conservative government just won an election. And when you're a conservative government, you sound like Trump. And you become an ally. The one that's sticking out is Colombia. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be a problem. But not for long. They've got to lose more influence as Cuba, desperate to survive, has reached out to China and Russia and haven't gotten much help.
Well, Mr. President, with a lot's going on today, I guess you knew about the looks to be a terrorist attack over at Old Dominion University. It looks to be a guy that was in jail, according to reports, for he was a naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone, convicted in 2017 of providing support for ISIS, and then he goes and commits this murder today.
Yep.
Followed by one in Michigan. They attack a synagogue. They plow into a building of a preschool entrance where 140 kids are inside. Thankfully, some great security forces were able to take this guy down. It looks like he's from Dearborn, Michigan, and it looks like his car's registered to someone in Lebanon. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, it's been going on for a long time. It's a disgrace. They're really demented people. And has been going on for a long time. They come into the country, they sneak in. You know, we have a solid border now. We have a border that's 100%. 9 months, nobody coming in. But they came in, and they came in a lot through Biden, and they came in through other presidents, frankly. And it's a disgrace. But what we took in over the last 4 years preceding my take-in, because we had that border pretty well wrapped up within 3 months. But and he could have done the same thing. We took in 25 million people, and many of those people came from bad places. So it's a shame. When you hear about these things, it's a shame. Very sad.
So then you see the attack in New York City, and 17 or an 18 and 19-year-old decide to make an IED and just throw it towards Gracie Mansion and get a piece of paper and say, this is about ISIS. So, how do you get into the mindset of this? How do you stop it?
They're sick people, and a lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there. So the genetics are not exactly. They're not exactly your genetic. It's one of those problems, Brian. It's a terrible thing, and it happens. And it happens too often.
So bringing up to today, there's a lot of Iranians, over 700, over 1,700 came to our border over the 4 years of President Biden. Over 700 are in. You mentioned the other day that you believe you know where the sleeper cells are, these Iranian sleeper cells. If you know where they are, can we start going offensively after them legally?
We're watching them very carefully. Got to be a little bit careful in a lot of ways. A lot of good people, too. It's like... That's the problem. You got a lot of good people, but we're watching them very, very carefully. We have them under watch. Now, when you say that, you say 1,700, could be a lot more than that came in, but nobody knows because you had so many coming through Biden where nobody has any idea where they came from, and nobody was asking where they came from.
I know, and you got the gotaways. Those are the ones who clearly didn't want to get caught,
Right.
and you just get the back of their heads.
Those are the ones that oftentimes are the worst.
One of the big stories was the concern about Iran having one of those one-way suicide drones somewhere hitting in California. Are you worried about that? And if so, what will we do if that does happen?
I don't worry about it because if you did, you wouldn't be able to function. Okay, so you can't worry. You have to do something, and we watch everything at a level that it's never been watched. Our country has never been watched over like this ever before. What Joe Biden did, and it wasn't probably him. I don't think he knew where he was, but what the people surrounding him allowed to happen to our country can never be ever forgotten again. From mental institutions they came, from drug dealers and murderers. Right. 11,888 murderers came into our country illegally. They came into our country and they let them in. They didn't even check. What's your name? What's your serial number? Give me a card. Give me something. No identification, which hopefully we're going to have with the Save America Act, which the Republicans have to get it done. You know, right. They all say they don't have the votes. They have to find the votes. That's what leadership's all about. But they came in with no identification, no nothing. They walk into our country. And look, that's why they lost their election in a landslide, frankly. One of the reasons.
But on the drone attack in California, is that real or is that verified? Did that cross your desk that is a legitimate concern?
Well, the first we heard about it was from Gavin Newsom, the incompetent governor of California.
He told you?
As he said, no, he announced it. It came out from him or his office. That's where we heard it first. He was talking about it. But he has learning disabilities, so I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know. You know, he admitted he had learning disabilities. Somebody said, well, what's wrong with that? I said, that's okay, but not for the president. You know,
right.
The president can't have learning disability. If you have that, that's not a good thing.
Well, he did say he couldn't read, which I found astounding.
Well, he said much beyond that, and he said other things. I won't even get into it, but he said a whole pile of things. Nobody understands what he did that day. Right. I say he committed political suicide, but that interview was not good. On top of it, it showed he was a racist. So, you know.
Yeah. So, I want to get back to that.
That was not a good, that was not a good interview.
That's his book tour. I don't think it's been a banner book tour for him, but we'll see what it does for 2028 because clearly he has his eyes on that. Can we talk about Iran for a second? Finally, we hear from the Supreme Leader in a long statement. We don't see him. He doesn't read the speech. They say he wrote the speech. First off, do you believe he's alive?
I think he probably is. I think he's damaged, but I think he's probably alive in some form, yeah.
What's your takeaway? I know he says that he's going to widen the war. He's going to continue to use the Strait of Hormuz as leverage against you to end this war. He's got underwater drones to stop any of the ships going in and out. What's your message back to the new Supreme Leader?
Well, they've been doing a lot of talking, so he's going to have to put up. We'll have to see because we are decimating them. We've knocked out most of their missiles. We've knocked out many of their drones. We knocked out a lot of the manufacturing areas where they manufacture the missiles and now the drones. We're hitting them harder than anybody's been hit since World War II.
So they are able to basically shut off the Strait of Hormuz. The word is that you're about ready to escort these oil tankers through. Is that true?
Well, we would do it if we needed to, but you know, hopefully things are going to go very well. We're going to see what happens. A lot's going to be, we've already damaged them so badly, it would take years for them to ever rebuild. And we're going to be hitting them very hard over the next week.
So, but does it concern you that these tankers aren't getting through and the one that did get through made its way to China? I would think that maybe we'd be stopping these tankers that got through.
Well, you'll have to see what happens over the next. You know, this just began. This is their new strategy. So you're going to have to watch, Brian, what's going to be happening over the next few days, and we'll see. We'll see how successful they are. But they're doing this as a last-ditch effort. Their Navy has been totally gone. It's as far as we know, it's just gone. They maybe have one ship. We're searching it out. It won't be around for long. But their Navy's gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their leadership is gone. Their second leadership is gone. Now their third leadership is in trouble. And this is not somebody that the father even wanted. But I'm not gonna say, you know, you were asking whether or not he's alive. A lot of people are trying to figure that one out. But we've done things that whether it's Venezuela or this, we've done things that nobody can believe. They are in such. look at the missile attacks. The missile attacks are down to a trickle now compared to what they were. Now, they'll go all out because they hear me make that statement, but that's all right because they'll go all out. We have it covered. We have it guarded, and they'll have that fewer, they're down to a very small, relatively small number of missiles. Their drones are in a lot of trouble now because we're knocking out their manufacturing plants where they manufacture at a very fast clip.
So do you, right now the Strait is not open, I know that, and you did a couple of things. You offered insurance for these ships to go through. No one seems to have taken you up on that. You also, I understand, you've released Strategic Oil Reserve to ease the oil shock that's happening right now, and so did 32 other nations, which is unprecedented. But do you believe you're going to suspend the Jones Act too? And if so, what would that do?
Well, it lets you take ships that are American-made and have them go around to different ports. It's a restrictive act. It's got some tremendous support in Congress, support for it, not to suspend it, but support for it, the Jones Act. But we'll take a look. We'll take a look at everything, and it's all going to work out. Look, we took an excursion. We had the greatest economy ever. We still do. And we have to do a little excursion to get rid of mad people, crazy people that want to have nuclear weapons. If we didn't do the hit with them, Midnight Hammer, if we didn't have those beautiful B-2 bombers hit them so effectively, and the word is obliterate, and now everybody admits the word is obliterate. In fact, they're not even talking about opening that site. They were talking about going to a new site, if you can believe it. But if we didn't hit them with a B-2 bomber, it could be that Israel would not be around today.
And Mr. President, would you also say it's important to get the uranium that Steve Witkoff talked about, that they said they have over 400 kilograms of it? Is there some type of operation in place to grab it?
No, not at all, and we're not focused on that, but at some point we might be. Right now we're focused on knocking the hell out of their missiles and their drones.
Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Bahrain have been hit. Roughly. What has been your conversations that you feel comfortable relaying to our audience with the Gulf, with our Gulf allies?
We're very, very solid. The relationship, the unity is tremendous. I spoke to most of them today. They got hit, and nobody expected it. They were sort of staying away. And I don't want to say neutral. I think they've been very good for us, but they were more or less neutral, and all of a sudden they got hit, which shows you, look, what they wanted to do, what Iran wanted to do is take over the whole Middle East. And if we didn't stop them with the B-2 bombers, they would have done that. Think of it, all the things that we knocked out the first time and then the second time, if they had that now, they had so many missiles, we knocked the hell out of them the first time, and this time it's even much more so. This is a much more severe blow.
Right.
If they had all those missiles, they were looking to take over the entire Middle East, not just destroy Israel.
I believe they were making 200 a month rockets, and that would have protected what was going to be a reconstituted nuclear program. The Supreme Leader came out, Mr. President, and said, they're going to keep attacking the Gulf states until we leave. Our American base, the American forces leave our presence from Qatar to UAE to Saudi Arabia. Are we going to leave?
Well, the Gulf states are doing a very good job in protecting themselves. They have great Patriot missiles, which are the defensive missiles that have knocked down virtually 100% of the time they use. They knock down whatever they're aimed at. They've been unbelievable. It's been unbelievable technology. Look, nobody has the technology or the weapons that we have, and the Patriots are an example of it. We have the Tomahawks. We have the Patriots. We have stuff that nobody's ever been able to produce, and they can't produce it like us. So we'll see how it all goes, Brian. I mean, it's going very well. We're way ahead of schedule, way ahead. We had no idea we'd be this far ahead. We've knocked out close to 90% of their missiles.
How important would it be to get out that besiege force, the thugs that walk the streets and the moral?
Great. We could do
are we aiming for them?
No, these are bad people. They go out shooting protesters. You're a protester, they shoot you right through the head. This is an evil group of people. And if we had them have a nuclear weapon, they would use it and they wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep.
So yesterday, the prime minister, or the other day, said it's soon to the Iranian people. It's time for you to soon come back and take back your country when the time is right, and that time is soon. There's also a report that Israeli officials do not think the regime is ready to fall yet. What do you say to the Iranian people? Do you echo what the prime minister said, their time is soon to take back their own country?
Well, you just mentioned to me a group of people that go around with machine guns and shoot them down, and they say, if anybody protests, we're going to kill you in the streets. So I really think that's a big hurdle to climb for people that don't have weapons. I think it's a very big hurdle. So that it'll happen, but it probably will be maybe not immediately. Who's going to do that? They literally have people in the streets with machine guns, machine gunning people down if they want to protest, okay? So, that's a pretty big, that's a pretty high standard to say, I want to go and protest.
Right.
And so I would understand that. And I would think Bibi would understand that, too.
Are you astounded?
He didn't say he's doing it right now. Time will go by. They're going to be in worse shape as time goes by. We're hitting them very hard. We have unlimited ammunition. We have of the high level and medium level, the medium and medium high level, we have virtually unlimited ammunition. And we're using it. We're using it. We can go forever.
Mr. President, do you believe that when the fighting stops, that the rest of the Gulf states will join the Abraham Accords? Is it closer than ever? Has Iran's action against the Gulf states made your pitch easier to digest for these Gulf states, knowing that it's clear now Israel's not the problem, Iran is?
Yeah, it's made it much easier because they have never been in condition like they are right now. They're putting up a wonderful front. They're saying things, but they are devastated when you take a look at what we know. And remember this, we're being nice. I could take out things within the next hour. We could hang up in 1 hour. You'd be reading about taking out nuclear power plants or power plants that creates the electricity, that creates the water. They have desalinization all over the place. We could do things that would be so bad they could literally never rebuild as a nation again. And we're trying to be nice about it. We're not doing it. Now, they'll go around and shoot civilians all over the place, but we don't do that. But we could take out elements of what they have in terms of infrastructure. They would virtually never be able, time wouldn't matter, never be able to reproduce it. And so far, we've chosen not to do that. But we have hit them so hard. I mean, they have virtually no military left. They do have the thugs walking across, and when they're caught, they will be tried and executed when those thugs are caught. And we have them on tape, who they are, and they better turn in their guns. But, we have tapes of some of these people that go around shooting the protesters, maybe all of them, when we add it all up, and they're going to have a big problem after this is all
Have
over.
they been targeted yet?
I don't want to say that. But we have a lot of tape, and we have a lot of people. We know exactly what they look like. And they're going out, and they're shooting protesters for just literally standing, not for doing anything, for standing on the street. They're killing people. And prior to this starting, they killed 32,000 people.
So the year was 1988. This future president, Donald Trump, was selling a book called The Art of the Deal. He gave an interview to a British newspaper, at which time you talked about Iran. You said we have to win back respect for America on the world stage, and you had stern words for the Islamic Republic. You said they've been beating us up psychologically, making us look like a bunch of fools. One bullet shot of one of our men or ships, I'd do a number on Karg Island. I'd go in and I'd take it. Now here in 2026, you are president. Are you thinking about taking Karg Island, where 90% of the Iranian oil goes through? And what do you think about? Do you remember that interview and that school of thought?
Yeah, but Brian, I can't answer a question like that. You shouldn't ask it. You shouldn't be even asking it. It's one of so many different things. It's not high on the list, but it's one of so many different things, and I can change my mind in seconds. But for you to ask a question, who would answer a question like that? I mean, you're asking me a question, Karg Island, okay? Everything. Who would ask a question like that? And what fool would answer it, okay? Let's say I was going to do it, or let's say I wasn't going to do it. What would I tell you? Oh, yes, Brian, I'm thinking about doing it. Let me let you know what time and when it'll take place. It's not, it's sort of a foolish question. A little surprising for you because you're a smart man.
I am, but you were just pretty amazing that you thought about it in 1988. So,
well, I did, but I thought about a lot of other things. You know what else I thought about a long time before it happened? 1 year before it happened, almost exactly, is Osama bin Laden. I said, you have to go out and kill Osama bin Laden. He's big trouble. Kill him.
Right.
Nobody did anything. A year later, he knocked down the World Trade Center.
Let's talk about China. It turns out.
Did you know that? It was in a book. Did you know that I wrote it in a book?
Yeah, I did.
One of my many bestsellers. I said, go get Osama bin Laden. He said, because I saw him interviewed. And I said, wow, that guy's trouble. And I said, you better go get him. And 1 year before he knocked down the World Trade Center, and you know that Clinton had a chance to get him?
Yep.
And didn't do it.
And he thought he would be accused of doing a wag the dog thing.
Yep.
And but hey, I want to talk about China. Do you realize, and I'm sure you do, there have been very few overflights for the first time in maybe 5 or 6 years over Taiwan. The word is, too, there are long gas lines in China. How do, number one, those reports, as you understand them, correct? And number two, how do you think that affects your meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks?
Well, the reports are correct about the long lines, but, look, he runs he's a strong person, a strong leader. I have a great relationship with him. I'm going over there in a very short period of time. I was invited, and I'm going. It's good that we get along. We're getting along very well. We're doing well economically with China. They want to do business with us. And, we've had a good relationship. It's highly competitive, obviously, but he and I have had a very good relationship. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. For all the people that are listening to your very highly rated show, which
yes.
it is, you're doing very well. I'm proud of you. But for all the people that are listening, it's good when I get along with other nations, the leaders of other nations. It's good. Powerful nation, powerful military. Nobody has our military. I built our military in my first term, and we're using it more than I'd like to now, to be honest with you, because I like peace through strength, but in this case, we had no choice. We had to close it out. 47 years they've been killing people. For 47 years they've been blowing their legs off. Think of it, all that, the SS Cole, so many different things they were involved in, so many bad things, so many acts of terror. It had to be done. It should have been done long before this.
Mr. President, between 2023 and 2024, the DNI of Joe Biden said there were 190 attacks on U.S. forces or our allies by Iran. That was the that was the Director of National Intelligence for President Biden. Right. We had 241 in 1983, killed 603 in Iraq. Are you surprised with these stats that Democrats are so vehemently, seemingly against this mission, including some veterans like Senator Mark Kelly?
Well, Mark Kelly's not a smart person. I mean, he's not a smart man. He's terrible. What he said is terrible about, leadership, okay? Leadership, follow him. You follow him into a grave. He's terrible. He's a pathetic guy. But they're pathetic. Look, we have a case where our country right now is respected more than it has maybe ever been, with Venezuela, with the B-2s, with all of the different things we've done and all the great success we've had. And during all of this period, I've rebuilt the military into the strongest military in the world by far. We had great people, but the people were being led badly. And in fact, in many cases, being led through woke. Mm-hmm. And we don't have that anymore. We have an unbelievable power where our military is unquestionably the best and the strongest of the world. And I built it in my first term. This didn't just happen. I built it. We had $1 trillion, $1 trillion, another $1 trillion, and I built it and made it great. I built the wall, hundreds of miles of wall. Otherwise, you'd have people, no matter how good a job I'm doing, without the wall that we built, you'd have people pouring into our country at levels never seen before. Biden let 25 million people come into our country.
Right.
25 million people. And many of those people came out of jails and prisons, and they came out of mental institutions, and they were killers, and all of the things that we just discussed. And I'm doing something about it. And I had to take an excursion. We had the greatest economy in history. We still do. Oh, this will bounce right back. When it's over, and I don't think it's going to be long, when it's over, this is going to bounce right back. So fast.
When are you going to know when it's over?
When I feel it.
Okay.
I feel it in my bones.
Will you ask anybody in particular? Would that be some of the a joint decision?
Well, I deal with people. I have great people. You know? I have General Raisin Kane. I have Pete. Pete's turned out to be a star. Marco's great. JD. I've got all good people. We've got a great group.
So let's talk about, if I can, looking back in history. George Shultz and Caspar Weinberger, two smart guys, disagreed in front of Reagan. Rumsfeld and Colin Powell disagreed in front of George W. Bush. In your cabinet, with the Vice President, Secretary of State, what is it like? What are the dynamics when you have a big decision like Iran or Venezuela? Are people speaking up and speaking their minds, even if...
I let them speak their mind, and they do, and we have some differences, but they never end up being much. I convince them all to let's do it my way.
So let's talk about immigration. Why is Senator John Wayne Mullen the right pick?
Just a fantastic guy. He's got it. He's got what it takes. I think he's going to do a fantastic job.
And when you talk about immigration, James Blair evidently told the caucus, the Republican caucus, don't talk about mass deportation. Story in Politico today said, hey, the president's allies want mass deportation. It rates really high with the people that put you there. Then you got farmers saying, hey, I need work visas for my longtime immigrants, and meatpackers saying the same thing. Where do you stand, Mr. President?
Well, number one, I stand in we're getting the bad criminals, the murderers, and all these criminals that were allowed. Number one, that's a top priority. And the rest is all going to work out, and it's working out well. We've deported tremendous numbers of people, but we're going after the murderers, we're going after the drug dealers, we're going after the mentally insane and people from insane asylums, and we're bringing them back to where they came from because we have no choice. We won't have a country, and we're taking care of. We have really bad, really sick criminals that were allowed to come into our country under Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe. Right. And he allowed them to come into our country, and we're getting them out. That's number one priority. But we want people to come into our country legally. And nobody can say anything about Trump because we literally, for 8 months now, have had 0 people come through the border. And Biden had millions of people. Nobody checked. Right. Totally unchecked and unvetted.
I just, and I know you got to run, but the Save America Act, you told John Thune, get it done. Do you mean get Democrats, or do you mean blow up the filibuster? Because you need 60 votes, right?
Yeah.
So how do you get it done? Is there an
act? It's called the Save America Act, and it's exactly that. It's voter ID. It's proof of citizenship. It's no mail-in ballots, which are horrible. They are so corrupt. Jimmy Carter years ago said you can't do mail-in ballots. It's corrupt. We're the only country in the world that does mail-in ballots like this. We're the only country. There's no other country in the world because it means you cheat. They cheat. Now, it's mail-in, but for the military it's okay. For somebody that's sick or somebody that's disabled or for somebody that's traveling, you're on a business trip or even a trip, we'll be very, open about that. But I also added 2 other things, and I put them in just recently. It's 5 points. And very, very importantly, no men in women's sports, no transgender mutilization of our children.
In Texas.
So those 5 things. Yeah. How can you vote against voter ID and citizenship and the other things I said? And it should be done. And if it's not done, it's a shame. And I think, frankly, any politician that voted against, think of it. Every place you go, you give identification. Yeah. And I want picture identification, not just, we want pictures so that when they go in to vote, somebody standing there can say, oh, that is the same person, not that it's a totally different person, which they do. They cheat. The reason they don't want it is because they cheat. And you saw that in 2020. They cheated at levels never seen before, and now all of that's come out.
The DHS reopening, are the Democrats beginning to crack? I mean, they wanted Kristi Noem out. She's out. They wanted no more roving patrols. You stopped it. They wanted body cams. You gave it to them. Do you feel as though you've given enough at this point?
Yeah, I think so. Look, they have to. These are people that hate our country. These are people that have Trump derangement syndrome. If I went the opposite, if I said, let's have nothing, let's have this, let's give you everything you want, they'd say, nope, we don't want it. We want the opposite. Anything I say, they go the opposite. If I say build the wall, they say don't build the wall. No matter what I say, they go the opposite because they're sick, deranged people. They got a problem.
Do you think these attacks will change their mind?
Disease. It's called Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think these new attacks today will change their mind? I mean, I
don't think so because I think there's something wrong with them. The hatred of Republicans is beyond belief. Who wouldn't vote for voter ID? Who wouldn't want that? Voter identification.
Right.
please, may I see your card, sir or madam? May I please see your card? And they say, we don't want you to do that. And yet every other, I wrote a list, but it was too long to go into. But I wrote a list that had 50 things that you need identification for. Everything. It's like everything.
But
it's like
but outside Fetterman, can you get it? But say outside Fetterman, I don't think any Democrat would do it. And even though the polls show over 70% of Democrats want voter ID on every ethnic group.
Today, 86% of Democrats approve of Save America. Now think of it. They're going to have to go out and say, we are opposed to Save America. It's called the Save America Act. They had a hard time with MAGA, Make America Great Again. Remember when Biden would get up and say, we have to stop MAGA. We will stop MAGA. We have to stop MAGA. The poor guy. And I said, no, MAGA means Make America Great Again. He wants to stop it. Now they have the Save. It's not the Save Act, by the way. All these people that use Save Act, those are people that are on the other side. It's the Save America, because nobody knows what the Save Act was. Nobody has any idea. The stupid name, the Save Act, and they used that for 2 years. It's called the Save America Act.
Marketing.
5 points, and I just named the 5 points.
And lastly, the Texas election. You said you're going to make a choice on what Republican should really get the nomination.
Right.
Is it going to be Cornyn or is it going to be Paxton? What do you think?
Well, let me tell you the good news. The good news is their candidate is whacked out with his 6 different forms of gender and all the things that I saw. The insult to Jesus. I mean, such an insult. This guy is whacked out. And, it's very interesting. They had no fear of her because she's a low IQ individual. But they really waited. The Republicans waited. They really wanted to run against him because they had these things, and nobody knew they had them. And all this bad stuff came out about him. He is so woke. He's beyond woke. He's actually... I think he's grossly incompetent. I think Gavin Newsom is incompetent. I think he's an incompetent person. And he admitted it. I mean, he admitted that he's incompetent. And, when a guy does that, but when you see what this guy said about gender and about other topics, and the amazing thing, it all came out one day after he defeated...
Tallarico.
Right.
Yeah.
He defeated Crockett.
So do you think that Paxton or Cornyn...
related it all to Davy Crockett, do you think?
I don't think so. I'm going to have to do a DNA. I don't know if she's due a 23andMe, but we could look into it. Paxton...
check it out.
I will. I think
Davy would be honored.
I have a lot of free time.
Great frontiers.
So you're going to stay out of the primary then? Paxton, Cornyn?
No, I'm not going to say it. No, I want to do something. But the main thing I have to do is find out who's going to get the Save America Act approved.
Well... I guess Senator John Thune's kind of at a logjam.
Yeah, I know. Look, I think he's a wonderful person. I do, but he seems to be not that he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't think he can do it, and that's bad. I mean, how can you not get voter ID approved? How can you not get citizenship approved? Proof of citizenship.
Listen,
that's all we're asking for.
I hear you. And lastly, is it true that you're telling your whole cabinet to wear the same shoes, these Florsheim shoes?
No, but it's a nice shoe. But what I do is, as somebody that for many, many years has walked around in shoes that were no good and, would not be that comfortable. So I have fun with it. When they tell me they have a problem, I say, let me get you a pair of shoes. And it seems to work out pretty well. Now they look all spiffy and nice. I never like cabinet members walking in sneakers.
Right.
Sneakers are wonderful, but I don't want my cabinet members wearing sneakers. So I'll get them a pair of shoes. It's a gift from Donald Trump.
That's cool. You could write it off, too, at the end of the year with this with your new tax reform.
I don't have to write it off. You're right. I guess I could, but I don't have to. Go ahead.
Well, Mr. President, I can't thank you enough. Lastly, are you enjoying this with all the pressure on your shoulders?
We're doing great. I had to do this excursion through a very tough kind of a thing to do, except it shows how strong. I knew exactly that would be good. And wait till you see tomorrow, wait till you see the next day. They're going to be hit so hard. They're going to be hit. They can talk all they want, but, let's see what they do. So they're going to maybe do something having to do with the Straits. I don't know. But they're being hit so hard. It'll take them 20 years to rebuild.
You think Putin is helping them?
I think he might be helping them a little bit, yeah, I guess. And he probably thinks we're helping Ukraine, right?
And you are, right?
Yeah, we're helping them also. And so he says that. And China would say the same thing. It's like, hey, they do it and we do it, in all fairness. They do it and we do it.
The only thing that I know that matters to the First Lady
I'll
is...
tell you one thing with Ukraine.
What?
They have to pay for everything, and they pay through NATO. When they buy missiles from us, when they buy anything from us, it goes not to them, it goes to NATO, and NATO pays the bill.
Are they helping us with drone defense, too?
No, we don't need the help in drone defense. No, we do. We know more about drones than anybody. We have the best drones in the world, actually.
Mr. President, best of luck these next few days. We'll be watching every moment, and thanks so much for your time.
Good, and thank you for your support. You've been great. You've been really doing a good job, Brent. Thanks a lot.
Hi, everyone. So glad you're there. It's the Brian Kilmeade Show. Moving through. Bill Melugin's got to be with us at the bottom of the hour. We got him out of Washington, away from the border. And now that he's done filling in for Bill Hemmer with Dana Perino, who's going to be here. Shannon Bream is just about ready to join us. Some say she's ready. Fox News Sundays. Fox News' chief legal correspondent. You see her on Fox News Sunday all day, and then you see her on the news channel, same show afterwards, although I watch it again just to see if I could find a difference. That's just a little challenge I have for myself, but I have not been able to find a difference when you go into repeats. So, Shannon, welcome back.
It is great to see you, Brian, in person.
And it's true. You're going to be on One Nation Sunday at 10.
I'm so excited. And listen, I've asked repeatedly for the dance party, and now that I'm going to be a guest, I might be able to actually make it happen.
And being that you have a book out, and it's the same book that you had out last week, right?
It is. It's officially on the shelves.
Yeah,
it may feel like I put a new book out every week, but that's you.
Nothing is impossible with God. 11 heroes, one God, endless lessons in overcoming.
It's officially out there.
Yeah, it's out there. The subtitle's good, too.
Well, it's true.
Right.
I stick to truth in my reporting and my writing of books.
Right. And do you discuss if Jesus is binary?
We don't, because I don't feel like that's worthy of discussion.
But it is in Texas for the Senate
It
seat.
is in Texas, but not in this book. We stick to these settled questions. And I think that, that's not something that came into Nothing is Impossible with God.
I needed you so much on what day was it? Kathy Lee Gifford was in. What day was that? Was that Wednesday?
I love her so much.
Right. But I'm in over my head. She's a biblical scholar.
Oh, no, she's very deep into it, too.
So she's saying stuff about Nero and Paul.
I know, but her book is fascinating. She does a deep dive.
So she said something fascinating to me. So I said, "Oh, you're religious?" She goes, "Don't call me religious." I go, "Why?" She goes, "Because I don't want to be associated with a church or a religion."
Right.
I go, "Why?" Mm-hmm. I said, "Because I just go through history." I go, "Why?" Mm-hmm. And she says, "This is all I have." Because you would be able to go deep with her. This is all I could say is, why would this be? Because no one's ever brought me down this road before, knowing how
do you self-describe?
What would you call someone that says they're not religious but is extremely
spiritual?
I guess. So she's she goes into the history of it.
Yes, she does.
She says, why is there not one Bible? She says, why is there a New and Old Testament? There's a gap there, but so what? Why don't you put them together? And I said, okay. The new Bible, the New Testament is King James. He's a terrible person. Okay, King James, terrible person. So
gave us translation of the Bible, though. And listen,
we got to thank him for that.
There are religious leaders who came together and made decisions about which books were going to be included. Now, most Christians believe that the word is inspired by God himself, and that these are messages that he gave to human beings.
But we edited
to put on paper. But there was a point at which there was prayerful, meditative decision-making on what was going to be included in the Bible. The thing I love about history, and, Kathy Lee does this too, there's so many sources that are outside the Bible that confirm things that happen in the Bible. And I think for people that are skeptical about faith, that's always a good thing that you can look and see. There were writings from the time that are contemporaneous telling stories about Jesus's life. I mean, we know he walked the earth. What you believe about him is a matter of faith. But
truly a star, right? When he was born?
Yeah, I believe that. Mm-hmm.
No drummer boy.
No, and that's my least favorite Christmas song of all time.
But I will say this. What person brings a drum for an infant?
For a baby. That's why I refuse to believe it happened.
Right. And why a snare drum?
Mary was furious.
Right, must have been. Easy with the drum. I got a kid here and I'm stuck in a manger.
A triangle maybe, but not heavy on percussion.
Why did she wait till the last minute to book a hotel during the holiday season?
Listen, she was called to a census. She had to go back to her homeland. She and Joseph, they had to go back. It was not optional. You know when the government tells you to do stuff? And you don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
The audits aren't fun.
Right, especially back then.
Back then, it was a whole nother thing. So, no, this was everybody was sent back to their home places, their family's origin, to go back through a census. So it's not like Mary's like, hey, let me travel 9.5 months pregnant.
Part of the Red Sea, they did find geographical proofs that there was a flood, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
And they went back to the Red Sea and they could see the part, because they did do that thing, which is got a little bit hokey, when, not Burt Lancaster, who's the other?
Charlton Heston?
Charlton Heston
I can
put
read
his
your
hand
mind.
up and he part of the Red Sea. It's not the best facts. I guess we got a little spoiled.
They're a little bit better now.
Right.
The AI. Yeah.
But that was a great thing.
Yeah. And here's the thing is I have a
Because
pastor.
you could not cross without it.
No, you listen, that took divine intervention. What I love is I have a pastor who's retired now, but what he used to always say is that every time they dig things up and discover things across the Middle East and that region, it confirms things in scripture. Like you have to, as a matter of faith, as a person of faith, you've probably already accepted that these things happen. But whenever they get to the archaeological stuff and it proves it, it's it's an added bonus to people of faith.
Yeah, I think you bring up the history part of it, and then it gets away to the myth part of it. When you can put some history in it. So when you put this book together, which is Nothing Impossible with God, how do you know?
I think my own experience of living through some really, really dark, difficult things, not that God answers the prayers the way you want him to. He does answer, but maybe it's not your plan. But what I found is his faithfulness in walking through that with me, his presence and my faith growing through really difficult things. So I speak from my own experience, but then we go through these 11 stories in the Bible that show you how he does work even in the really difficult things.
Can you give me one?
Yeah. Think about Joseph. If you think about him in the Old Testament, his brothers sold him into slavery. He was dad's favorite. They did not like that. He was later thrown in jail. Like all of these injustices happened to him.
Little Job thing going.
Job was bad too. I mean, that was really difficult. But with Joseph at the end of the story, you see he's in a position now of leadership in Egypt when there's famine in the land and his brothers come to him. They don't recognize him, which he loves. He kind of lets them twist in the wind for a little bit, but ultimately says everything you did, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. So you see redemption even in the worst things.
Okay. And those are some of the stories. Is there a TV special with this?
There's not, unless you want to be one.
Right. No, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I didn't make the cut 11. I didn't make the top 11 stories.
I don't know, but maybe you're number 12. Honorable mention.
Honorable mention. So do you believe our lives are fully designed? Where does choice come in?
I believe we have total free will because God wants a relationship with us, but he's never going to force that. So what would it be meaningful to him if it was just we're all robots and we don't have any choice? So I think that he's aware of everything that happens, but he's allowing us to make our decisions, good and bad.
Right. What religion are you?
I grew up in a Baptist church, but I would say that I'm more of a non-denominational person. I mean, like the Bible is the cornerstone of everything for me in Christ. But, my husband grew up Methodist, and we don't necessarily pick the church based on the denomination. Because, listen, if the key stuff is where we're at, we can quibble about some of the ways that you practice your faith.
You like the Pope or?
I like him.
Right.
And we got an American one now.
Right.
But I didn't grow up Catholic.
But it's nothing, you would say that's not your Pope.
Not my Pope. I think he's, a respected scholar and leader, certainly to be somebody that we should look to for good things and good guidance about God. But I don't see him as divine in any way.
Right.
Just
the cardinal of the moment.
Yeah.
Right. A couple of things. I don't think he likes America too much.
But he's from here.
I know. I'm just saying.
Well, he likes our sports teams. He's got some faves in Chicago. He likes Chicago deep dish pan pizza.
Does he like Cubs or White Sox? Do you know? I think
he's a White Sox guy.
Yeah.
I think.
There's very few of them left.
Somebody's going to fact check us on that.
But I know his brother likes us.
Yeah, meaning Fox?
Yes.
And America?
Both. I'm just saying. I don't know. I get the sense that he had a role in pulling Cardinal Dolan out, who is my favorite.
But didn't he have a forced retirement? I mean, isn't that how it works within the Catholic Church?
What happens is, how when people say, will you accept my resignation? And you go, no.
And they say no. Mm-hmm.
They said, would you accept my resignation? Yes. Really? I'm out. 2 weeks.
I love Cardinal Dolan so much.
Right.
I mean, he to me is one of the best communicators.
Absolutely.
When it comes to the gospel and everything else, he's just such a good guy. He was great at his job and a great person for an ambassador of faith. I just love him.
All right. So go out, grab this book. We're going to be talking about this weekend. And that is Nothing is Impossible with God.
Can I ask you a question?
11 heroes, one God, endless lessons in overcoming. Yes.
What happens every time you try to resign from one of your 50 jobs at Fox? They're like, not accepted. And here's another job.
Right.
They give you a new one every time you try to resign.
They're waiting for me to be good at one of them. So
you're great at all of them. That's why they can't let you go, because you got so much stuff to do.
There's a lot going on. We had the president yesterday.
I know, you're just chatting up with the commander in chief.
Yeah, he likes doing radio, but he won't stream. Like I tell him that everyone's streaming these days.
And
like
he says
you
no?
stream when you do what he says.
But here's the thing. He knows about all this new stuff. Remember how much credit he gave Barron for going into these new places, new technologies, podcasts, all these different places. Like he gets it. He's a smart guy.
I know, but we can't get him to budge on that, right? I mean, every time we ask him, right. So
keep asking. He loves you.
Well, we'll see. Well, he likes me. He did get mad at me.
But I like when he gets mad at you because you guys have good conversations.
Right. But I did say to him, I'm saying, what about Carl Island? And he said, what a dumb question. Well, I'm just asking. You don't have to tell me your strategy, but you can just say that's one of the things we're looking at. But he said it was a really dumb question.
What was the question?
I asked at Karl Island, are you thinking about taking it? Because 90% of Iran's oil goes through Karl Island.
Exactly. So was he saying, don't ask me that because maybe they're already doing it?
Why would I tell you if I was going to do it?
Well, you got to ask.
It was like asking a coach, like, are you going to run the ball in the third quarter? Why would I tell you that? Well, I'm just asking. You don't get mad. You don't have to say
right.
that.
You don't have to tell me. But every military expert that we have, and we're so blessed to have so many of them that are part of our Fox family.
That's all we do.
They all point to Karl Island, so we all know that's an issue.
Right. Yeah. Don't give me that much credit or discredit for it. So one of the things I asked him too is when are they going to have ground forces? Like when's it going to be okay for the Iranian people to rise up? Do you remember, Shannon, 2 days ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu gave a speech, and at which time he says, get ready, your time is approaching. We're doing some things to make it possible. And I asked him about that, about can we put ground forces in? And I also asked him about sleeper cells. And the one cut I'd like to have, do we have that one cut?
Which one?
The one
Do
we
they
talk
also
about ground
read your
forces?
brain in the
No,
control
but
room?
this is a really good one. I thought we were going to be able to get it.
While you're thinking
we didn't
about
pull
that,
the ground forces. So he says, not quite yet. And he says a lot of what might happen is after this is done, the ground forces might be ready. I just watched some video of Ali Laranjani walking through Tehran while we're bombing it. And they're trying to say that they survived, they're more resilient than ever. I think it's all bravado. I think we're right on target.
I mean, I do when you look at it, taking out their ability to respond and to go after our allies and our friends in the region. I think we've seriously degraded all of that stuff. There's the question, though, now about this enriched uranium. And there's been a lot of speculation that to get to that and effectively get our hands on it, verify and get it out of there would require boots on the ground, that there's been such fortification of it that to take it out from the air may not be doable. I'm no military expert. I don't know. But that's where I keep hearing the possibility of boots on the ground being mentioned.
Well, put it this way. He will never tell us, hey, Special Forces is going to go in there.
Exactly.
But about a mile from Natanz, they think that's where the enriched uranium is, the 400 kilograms, 600 pounds, however it converts. And I would think if anybody knows the land almost as well as the Iranians, it's the Israelis. And do they have great special forces? Unbelievable special forces.
Their
with
intel is
Mossad.
incredible.
And then working with us. I mean, sometimes you forget. We don't have like allies. We have a true partner in this who have equally motivated for this mission. It's not, hey, I heard you guys got hit on 9/11. I'll join you in Afghanistan.
No, you're the existential threat to them at all times.
Right. So you got an air force, you have a ground force as good as, and an intelligence, pound for pound, as good as ours, working together. And I just think that we're going to make sure they're not able to make rockets, do the best they can to get rid of all their drones. I'm not sure we can wipe out their knowledge of drone technology, but most important, I think the two things I think are going to happen. I think the new supreme leader is going to be killed, and I think the uranium is going to be gotten.
It's got to. I mean, if this is going to accomplish the goals that the administration has for this, and if it's going to free up the people to go back to the streets or take back their government. I mean, it's one thing for us to degrade the missile systems and things that we can do from the air, but without Strait of Hormuz, without getting our hands on that enriched uranium and really wiping out any regime leader, the people there, we're asking them to take to the streets at a time when tens of thousands of them were killed and will be killed if they go out there now.
My hope is we got this drone technology that can get people ground level and assassinate them on their motorcycles because they wear plain clothes, have motorcycles, and enforce the moral on the moral police.
Yeah.
Is moral or morale? Well, no, not morale. Moral police. And they will kill you if you don't wear something over your head, or if they'll grab your phone and look at it and say anything negative against the regime, you'll be dead.
Yeah.
I want to bring you to something else. And that is what we're doing about Tellurico in the Senate. I asked the president about what are you going to do with Cornyn and what are you going to do with Paxton. You said you're going to endorse one of them. He focused on Tallarico. Let's listen.
The Texas election, you said you're going to make a choice on what Republican should really get the nomination.
Right.
Is it going to be Cornyn or is it going to be Paxton? What do you think?
Well, let me tell you the good news. The good news is their candidate is whacked out with his 6 different forms of gender and all the things that I saw. The insult to Jesus. I mean, such an insult. This guy
is binary.
Yeah, he went on. Just said this guy's a terrible candidate. He's been exposed as a woke candidate. But Democrats are still high on him. What do you think?
They are, and he is really leaning heavily into this faith thing, which you'd think in a place like Texas is going to work. But I would also say a lot of folks in Texas go to church, they know their Bible, and they're going to find some of the stuff completely wacky. So the ads are already writing themselves. I mean, they're happening. But in the meantime, Republicans are wasting a lot of their own money and ad money and time on waiting for this endorsement from President Trump. And I think he was pretty close last week, but this SAVE Act thing seems to really be rattling everybody in Washington.
And now Cornyn came out and said, maybe I'll vote to get rid of the filibuster.
Yeah, I've kind of evolved my thinking on that, which people in Washington do. But you saw Senator Manchin, who used to be one of the Democrats, who are like, we're never getting rid of the filibuster, even though my party wants it right now. It is not a good thing to do for the health of the Senate, the health of the country. And he came out and, basically sounded like Cornyn's doing election year politicking, but he needs the endorsement. I mean, whoever gets the president's endorsement in that GOP Senate.
I'm sticking with don't get rid of the
think?
filibuster. Do not.
Well, the thing is, it's such a short-sighted thing to do, especially for the SAVE Act, because even folks on the right who want it note it has limits to it. And so do you want to blow up the filibuster over something that is not the end-all be-all? Now, people who support it say you got to get it done. But when you're in the minority and that's the only tool you have to stop something, you got to think long and hard about whether you're willing to get rid of that.
I would say in 2 years, if a Democrat wins, the first thing they're going to do is get rid of it.
They probably will.
On 51 if they get the Senate.
Yeah, so, and that's the argument for getting rid of it now that Republicans have.
And it's my argument.
And you, well, you know what? Are you going to run for Senate?
No, well, it's my argument as a civilian.
Are you going to run against Chuck Schumer? Or
no.
AOC?
I think AOC should run for the Senate. I think she's pretty clear. She does not have the experience to run for president.
That doesn't mean anything, though.
Shannon Bream, no one means a lot. Your book is now out. Go grab it.
Thank you.
Back in a moment.
In your cabinet, with the Vice President, Secretary of State, what is it like? What are the dynamics when you have a big decision like Iran or Venezuela? Are people speaking up and speaking their minds, even if...
I let them speak their mind, and they do. And we have some differences, but they never end up being much. I convince them all to, let's do it my way.
Because you're the president. I mean, what are people going to try to talk you down? And I'm referring to the story came out after that, and I don't think it's been denied. The Vice President of the United States was against the military action, was against Venezuela, was against this, was against intervention. And that's the story that has come out, and they have differing views. It's not unusual, as I brought up, and a little longer case, when you have administrations who are savvy. Rumsfeld, extremely, second time he was Secretary of Defense. Colin Powell used to work with Reagan on the National Security Team. Then he became Secretary of State. They would fight all the time. So, doesn't mean anything. These guys fight in front of each other. They fight in front of the president. It's up to the president to make a move. And if it becomes unworkable, the president decides to make a change. And Rumsfeld was out and Gates was in, and the surge happened and things got a lot better. And Dick Cheney was never happy. And by the way, Dick Cheney and George W. Bush were never the same after the president fired Rumsfeld. Bill Melugin's next. Don't move.
The DHS reopening, are the Democrats beginning to crack? I mean, they wanted Kristi Noem out. She's out. They wanted no more roving patrols. You stopped it. They wanted body cams. You gave it to them. Do you feel as though you've given enough at this point?
Yeah, I think so. Look, they have to. These are people that hate our country. These are people that have Trump derangement syndrome. If I want the opposite, if I said, let's have nothing, let's have this, let's give you everything you want, they'd say, nope, we don't want it. We want the opposite. Anything I say, they go the opposite. If I say build the wall, they say don't build the wall. No matter what I say, they go the opposite because they're sick, deranged people. They got a problem.
Do you think these attacks will change their mind?
Disease. It's called Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think these new attacks today will change their mind? I mean, I
don't think so, because I think there's something wrong with them. The hatred of Republicans is beyond belief. Who wouldn't vote for voter ID? Who wouldn't want that? voter identification.
So it's nothing's changing. Senator Patty Murray, Washington, she offered the DHS funding without ICE or Customs and Border Patrol. And Republicans balked at that. Quote, it was funded already, meaning ICE, and we have told them they're not going to fund ICE until we get reforms to ICE, so they're not going to do it the traditional way. So the log jam happens. It's still a Border Patrol and Coast Guard, not Border Patrol, but TSA and Coast Guard aren't getting paid. With me right now is Bill Melugin. Bill, that's now your beat in Washington.
Yep.
And you said that Schumer did a savvy move.
Yeah, yesterday on the Senate floor, he was there with Senate Majority Leader John Thune, and they were kind of like going back and forth about all of this. And Chuck Schumer said to Thune, okay, well, I propose something right now. Let's do unanimous consent, basically a way to expedite everything. Let's just fund TSA right now. A clean bill. Let's just fund TSA. Let's get over these long lines. You want to fund them. We want to fund them. Let's do one clean bill to get TSA funded right here, right now. Will you commit to that? And Thune said no, and basically said that because you guys have already messed with this so many times, we're not going to defund the rest of DHS. Thune countered and said, well, I'd still like to fund the Coast Guard and FEMA and Secret Service. So it's just this constant ping pong back and forth of blame. And in the meantime, what's happening? We see all these videos on social media of these TSA lines, right? I mean, you're getting some that are upwards of 4 hours long. And Brian, I think that's where the pressure is going to build, because the weeks before this, not a lot of Americans really even knew there was a shutdown going on, right? But now those videos spread on TikTok, on Twitter, online, and people are wondering, is my spring break going to get messed up?
It's dumb.
You know? Yeah.
The Minnesota thing's not happening. It's not live right now. No one's even talking about it. You have somebody in charge, Tom Homan. Kristi Noem is now out. Bavino is now out. I mean, come on, you got body cams?
Democrats should be able to go to their base and say, look at these wins we got. Kristi Noem is out. Greg Bavino's out. Operations in Minnesota are over. And they'd be correct. I mean, they really pulled back on what they were doing. There's been no headlines out of Minnesota. Operation Metro Surge is over. They could say that all of the backlash got Kristi Noem pushed out and changed operations. They could take that to their base and say it's a win. But they want more. They want judicial warrants, which is insane when you're dealing with upwards of 15 to 20 million illegal immigrants, and they want masks off. And Republicans, and I think rightfully so, are saying absolutely not. When you've got these lunatic activists out there who are threatening to kill them every single day, you want to take their masks off. They also, Brian, they want ICE to wear and display ID, but ID for voters is Jim Crow 2.0.
Right, yeah.
You know?
but I mean, could the compromise be numbers, like an ID number where it's possible to look it up if you're a fellow law enforcement person?
And they've had those conversations. And the other thing has been body cams. And Republicans are good with those. ICE wants body cams. They want people to be... Officers feel that body cams protect them too.
Yeah.
Everyone's cool with body cams. They're being rolled out right now. There is some wiggle room in terms of what they can do with IDs. As you said, there could be some register numbers that they could use that aren't as public. One of the big sticking points, though, is the Democrats want judicial warrants, which they don't want to acknowledge the existence and use of administrative warrants. A judicial warrant means you have to go to a federal judge and there has to be probable cause for suspicion of a federal crime, not just being in the U.S. illegally. And so all these crimes you see when you hear about illegal immigrants, rape, murder, stabbing somebody, DUIs, those aren't federal crimes. Those are state crimes. And you can't get warrants for those state crimes from a federal judge. So essentially what they would do by wanting judicial warrants is you take off more than 90% of the targets off the table immediately.
So that's a non-starter.
That's a total non-starter for Republicans. They will never go for it.
Right. And still the numbers are still high for people who say if you're here illegally, you should be deported. Over 50% of the country feels that way.
Majority of the country still believe. I think what happened, what got away from the Trump administration was some of the tactics and the videos, those roving Border Patrol patrols in Minnesota where they're walking into a 7-Eleven with media cameras, knowing activists are going to be there. People are throwing stuff at each other. There's tear gas going off everywhere. And then all of that bubbled up and culminated with obviously the deadly shootings. I think that really soured public opinion. I mean, you had 2 dead Americans, right?
Right.
And then I think that, you know, when you're looking at those middle independents, I think that was enough to kind of push people like, all right, maybe we got Americans being killed now.
Well, Secretary Noem was not good at her job. She was in the wrong place.
Yeah, well, and her messaging was, especially after those shootings, when you call everybody a domestic terrorist, nobody's a domestic terrorist. It's kind of like how conservatives criticize liberal. When everyone's called a racist, nobody's a racist, right? It's kind of the other side of that coin.
Yeah. I want you to hear the president on that and what it means, because, as you know, Bill, when you were at the border, they said something about 700 plus Iranians crossed and stayed. Over 1,700 or something tried to get across. Here is President Trump on that and sleeper cells, cut 5.
You mentioned the other day that you believe you know where the sleeper cells are, these Iranian sleeper cells. If you know where they are, can we start going offensively after them legally?
We're watching them very carefully. Got to be a little bit careful in a lot of ways. A lot of good people, too. It's like that's the problem. You got a lot of good people, but we're watching them very, very carefully.
What do you know about them, Bill?
So, especially in like late 2023, 2024, when I was down in San Diego sector, there were a lot of Iranians and Middle Eastern folks crossing there. Single adult men, no wives or kids, just crossing. Most of them were okay. They seemed fine. They'd smile at the cameras. They'd come talk to you. The ones that worried me were the ones that wanted nothing to do with you, hid their faces from the camera, were dressed in camouflage. Some of them would have carpet shoes on so they wouldn't leave footprints in the sand. We will never know who those guys were, because remember, you probably saw in half the live shots we did, there were no Border Patrol agents anywhere. They'd wait for hours for Border Patrol to show up because they figured they'd be caught and released. But for the ones who didn't want to be caught, and you have to ask why they didn't want to be caught, they would just walk off into the country and you'd never see them again. And we will never know who those guys are. And that's what I always wonder now is all those years, all those live shots, all those millions of gotaways who came into the country, where are they now? Who are they now? What are they doing? And I always wonder, are one of these guys I saw walk into the country going to pop up someday on one of our stories that they've committed some attack somewhere? Am I going to recognize somebody? Am I going to go through my video and look back and recognize somebody? We genuinely had complete open borders for 4 years, and we have no idea who came in.
And do you have a sense that this was done on purpose to pay back his left wing that put Joe Biden in office? Was it incompetence?
I don't know personally. The theory that I've heard the most, which I think makes sense to me, is they knew a large majority of these illegal immigrants would flock to blue cities because of the social services. And that's what they did, New York, Chicago, Boston, that sort of a thing. And how would that benefit them? They're not going to vote, but they get counted in the census. And Congress divvies up its congressional seats based off the census. So if you have more people in a blue city, you're going to get more blue seats in Congress. And that's a way to expand power.
Because they're losing power now.
Can I prove that? No. But does it make sense? Look at how hard they're fighting deportations and how hard they're fighting ICE. They didn't do any of this during Obama. And Obama deported millions of people. Right. There was no outcry back then. Part of it's because obviously they opposed Trump, and as you heard him say in his interview with you, they oppose every little thing that he does. But it got to a point where the border was so damaging for Biden politically, and you could argue it's part of the reason why Kamala lost the election. What's the underlying goal as to why they never reversed course? And I think that theory could hold some water.
Well, the other thing is that, you think about the protests. There was a huge disconnect between the people I saw on the streets and illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Do you ever hear them talking about, one of the illegal immigrants is my best friend, they're my neighbors, they really matter? No, they're out there to protest what ICE was doing.
Yeah.
But they didn't care about the people that ICE was deporting.
Well, and did you notice all the ICE protests have ended now?
Yeah.
They've been replaced with the Iran protests. It's because all these groups are the same. I mean, they interchange their signs for the topic of the day. But to your point, you go out and you talk to these protesters. A lot of them are those anarchist Antifa people. They just hate the federal government and they hate any structure, whether ICE is their enemy or Jews are their enemy or it doesn't matter. But to your point, they'd be out there protesting, and ICE could be arresting someone next to them, and they could have no idea they got an Interpol red notice out for aggravated homicide or child rape, but ICE is arresting someone, and that's bad, and we're going to interfere.
So a couple of things. March 1st, the bar shooting in Austin, Texas, guy wearing a sweatshirt from Senegal basically says, property of Allah. March 7th, attempted bombing in New York City. We saw that. We caught it on tape. 18 and 19-year-old, two guys, first-generation Americans whose parents are from Turkey and Afghanistan, respectively. An IED, there seemed to be radicalized online. Roblox seems to be the messaging app that they were using. And then on yesterday, the synagogue attack in Oakland County, Michigan, at the earlier Old Dominion University had a big shooting at a ROTC classroom. What do we have in common with a lot of these? These guys are illegal immigrants, came here, got legal status, in the case of the Old Dominion shooter, went to jail for working with ISIS in 2017, gets out, and ends up still being a terrorist.
Yeah.
What are you getting now? People are saying, why are they allowed to stay here?
Well, there's a lot of sound, a lot of reaction from Republicans right now saying we got a big-time problem with our legal immigration system because we are bringing people into the country and welcoming them with open arms, and then years later they're killing our people. And, I mean, the case you just mentioned with the Old Dominion shooter, absolutely insane, right? Comes in from Sierra Leone, gets naturalized into a U.S. citizen, gets convicted in 2017 of supporting ISIS. Feds ask for a 20-year sentence. You get a soft-on-crime judge who says, no, we'll give him 11 years. And then they even let him out early from that, 7 years. 7 years for supporting ISIS, a terror organization. And the guy praised other terror attacks, praised the Fort Hood shooter, said he was considering doing his own terror attacks, and they just let him out. And this poor guy, he gets a second chance. And this poor guy who got killed in the ROTC class, he didn't get a second chance. Decorated guy, served overseas, served in the military, survives these wars, all sorts of medals. But he gets killed by a terrorist who should have never been on the street in the first place, who was allowed into this country, was embraced by this country with open arms, and at some point gets radicalized and commits a terror attack. I mean, Brian, what the hell are we doing?
I know. I mean, if crime's bad enough, accidents happen, we understand some people go bad. But when a criminal gets arrested 20 pumps time or 40-something times and they're out in the street, that's not unfortunate. That is insanity.
Yeah. I mean, imagine being this guy's family, knowing that this guy went to federal prison, he's a known terrorist, and they still let him out and apparently weren't monitoring him, right? I mean.
And on the synagogue attacks, it looks like this guy drove right into the classroom, right down the hallway with his car. Thankfully, the security guys just took FBI training and were able to execute him right on the spot.
Imagine if they weren't there.
There was a preschool right next to him.
And this guy was from Lebanon, naturalized into a U.S. citizen under President Obama in 2016. Same sort of thing. Apparently got radicalized at some point and decided to ram his truck into that school, that Jewish school, had a rifle with him. Thankfully, security was there waiting for him. They lit him up. They killed him. And I'm told his body is really badly burned. And but now you see the media headlines coming out that they're trying to kind of justify it. They're saying, oh, his family in Lebanon was killed in Israeli airstrikes. There are reports that some of his brothers are members of Hezbollah. But they're trying to justify that, like, well, this was a reaction to his family. Let's say for argument's sake that's true, and his family was killed in an Israeli airstrike. In what way would that justify trying to slaughter little Jewish children at a school in Michigan? What do they have to do with those airstrikes?
Yeah, of course.
You know, and it's just, we've seen some crazy stuff from the media these last couple of weeks. Remember CNN earlier this week with the teenage IED bombers here in New York? Well, they could have just been going for a stroll on a nice spring day, but they found themselves arrested for throwing bombs. It's like, what are we doing here? They're trying to whitewash everything, and then they try to make it sound like Mamdani was the target when it was an anti-Islam protest that was the target. So crazy couple of weeks, 4 terror attacks, and then 2 in one day yesterday alone.
But the other thing I get from this is these ROTC guys, the instructor gets shot. So he says, is this an ROTC class? He turns around and shoots the instructor in cold blood. But I love the fact that people know you got to take action. I love the fact that there was security there at a synagogue. I hate the fact they need it, but they need it. Who knew how to act. I love the fact that the cops went right in that Austin bar and killed the guy from Senegal without any hesitation. Yeah. Because that's what you need. We can't stop every terror attack, but we have to do the best we can to not be victims.
That Old Dominion shooter obviously bit off a lot more than he can chew, right? He unfortunately was able to kill the instructor in the class. Then the students turned on him, and reports are they pinned him down and stabbed him to death. Because he could have shot up that whole class, but they took action. They stabbed him, killed him, and then imagine if the security wasn't there at the Jewish school yesterday.
Oh, it would they would have killed the kids. It would have been Sandy Hook all over again.
Yep, something like it.
Bill, next time we see you, going to be in on Monday? Or?
I'll be back in New York next month. I'll be back on the Hill next week. So we'll see what happens with this government shutdown. We'll be there to shove cameras in people's faces and try to get some answers and see what we can do.
House and Senate in session.
I believe so. Yes,
they got to get something done.
Yep. I know.
Right. Bill Melugin, great job. Always great to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
I have the same tie, but it looks better on you.
I think I saw it yesterday.
I think so too. Back in a moment.
The main thing I have to do is find out who's going to get the Save America Act approved.
Well, I guess Senator John Thune's kind of at a logjam.
Yeah, I know, look, I think he's a wonderful person, I do. But he seems to be, not that he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't think he can do it. And that's bad. I mean, how can you not get voter ID approved? How can you not get, citizenship approved? Proof of citizenship.
So the president is aghast. They can't get 60 votes or can't blow up the filibuster. This is the only two things you could do. You can't do it on reconciliation the way I understand it because there's no money involved. You can do reconciliation when it comes to budget and financing, but you can't do it without that. You can't choose a simple up and down vote. And the thing is, John Thune not only doesn't want to blow up the filibuster, he doesn't have the votes to blow up the filibuster. How do you do that? You need a majority. And he doesn't have a majority. Why didn't Joe Biden do it? Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. And I thank them for it. Or else we might have 2 more states. We might have fattened the Supreme Court because they couldn't get rid of the justices. So who knows what else they would have done? At the border. They will legalize immigration. Everybody. Come one, come all. Who knows? And the thing is, even if you pass the Save America Act and you blow up the filibuster, really short-sighted. And when there is a president, Democratic president, the next day, with the Senate, as soon as he gets the Senate, or she gets the Senate, overturn everything. At least now you got to work to overturn the Trump legacy, the stuff that's not executive ordered. It'll be like everything that Trump passed was executive orders. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to listen to One Nation or watch One Nation Sunday at 10. We'll have some more highlights of Donald Trump, and you'll be able to hear the Donald Trump interview on YouTube.